to the spot like Phil Collins sang it. Fresh new fade with the mustache banging. I know you want to know where the fuck I'm from.
Check it out real quick. Episode 8. Got the homie Mad Dog right here.
What's happening?
Out of Sacramento too, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going to start. I looked a little bit at the podcast you did with the homie and shit, so I don't want to cover the same things, but we'll go around some things. Where'd you get the name Mad Dog from?
It's from, so growing up, man, and, in South Sac, the homies said I used to mad dog everybody all the time, you know what I mean? So every time we go somewhere, we get into some shit, and they be like, man, you always want to mad dog somebody. We always get into fights because of you. So really, that's kind of how it all started, you know what I mean? And then shit just started running with it, you know what I mean?
Right.
But when you young and you hungry, you wanna prove yourself.
Right.
It's kind of that mentality. So that's what it was. Always getting into shit, getting the homies into shit.
So how old was you when that name stuck?
Probably like my late teens, bro. Really.
Okay.
You know, because I would just go by my government handle, and I was actually doing the rap thing before, when I was like 15, and but at that time, rap music, it was like on the Brown Pride movement, you know what I mean? So we was doing like, car shows. Me and the homie Hugh Half, we was really trying to find that rap identity, and it was really all about macking on girls back then, making money, hustling and macking on chicks is really where it was at. But always been around the homies in South Sac where I grew up, so you know what I mean. I was always tied in, and then like I said, once I started getting a little older, start going out more, because we talk about like 16-year-old kids, and we're performing at nightclubs. You know what I mean? The 18 and overs or 21 and over, the homies shoot us a little wristband, so we're over there drinking, kicking it with the homeboys. So we always kept myself in older crowds. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, same here, man. All my homies are older than me.
Yeah.
My whole generation is older than me. I'm the youngest.
Yeah. So back then, we wasn't really calling them big homies, but there was the older homies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we looked to them for the guidance and just, you know what I'm saying? And they was already with it. So, we was just looking for an opportunity to let them know we was with it too, you know what I mean? And then, once we did, the rest was history.
Yeah, I remember when you was 18, somebody like 20, 22, 23, 24 was older. It was like a lot older to us back then.
Right. And back then, bro, the difference of a 24-year-old back then and a 24-year-old today, we're talking apples and oranges, because just how time changes, bro.
Yeah.
And even before us, the generation before that, you know what I mean? We're talking about 24-year-old, you already had kids and wife and was working for a living, you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Nowadays, you on your parents' insurance until 26, so they're growing up a lot later in life these days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that had a lot to do with the economy, probably. We had to get on the school bus. I mean, the public transit to go somewhere.
Public transit, things was a little bit different.
Okay, but you said you in the music game. I only heard you do some singing. You rap too?
Yeah, I rap too.
Okay. I probably didn't just pay attention to that, but I know we're talking a little bit, and you sent me some links, and that one by Looney Coleons, I for sure heard that back in the day.
Yeah.
What year did that come out?
So, I think we dropped that in it was like 2000.
What's it called? All I Want to Do, or
the song's All I Want to Do, but it was off of the Total Recall album.
Okay.
So just a little bit of history, Sacramento rap was popping, especially in my area, in the South area. So the Garden Block was kind of making a little name for themselves. Obviously, underground rap in the Bay Area was popping too. So right around the time when you had, E40 and the Click, Spice One, you had, RBL Posse, JT the Bigger Figure. You had all these cats coming out of the Bay Area. And at the time, Master P was out there. Master P was living in Richmond, and he was hustling. He was doing music with, local cats, right? So we came out, you know, I say we, but Sacramento Rap was coming out with Brother Lynch Hung, Sibo. You had, a bunch of cats, Hollow Tip. There was some other older cats too, like Homicide, but the ones that was really moving was the Garden Black. You know what I mean?
What's that one? I remember the one. I remember I heard it for the first time in '95. Something Dre. I do my dirt by Maloney.
Gangster Dre.
Gangster Dre, yeah.
So Gangster Dre, he was from South Sac too. He was popping too. He was a blood. So and back in the '80s, in the late '80s and the early '90s, it was rocking and rolling between the Bloods and the Crips, and the homies was funking with each other out there in South Sac. So it was a lot of gunplay going on, and in my younger days when it was rocking and rolling, the rap game was popping too at the same time, and it was all on that gangbang stuff. So, like I said, at that time, Looney Coleon wasn't Looney Coleon; he was Lunatic.
Yeah.
But he was under contract. So AWOL Record had a bunch of dudes under contract. You know what I mean? And Killer Tay, Lunatic, a bunch of cats from there. So when he was trying to get out of his contract, that's when he reinvented himself as Looney Coleon.
That's tight.
So he was shopping around. At the time, there was several people looking for labels at the time. So in Sac, you had cats like Mac Dre was going studio to studio. He was just doing his thing, networking. You had like Spice One was looking for somebody. Yeah. And my homies, the same dudes that used to throw the nightclubs, used to push a little bit, and so they were lightweight, doing some bootleg music, creating kind of ties with independent distribution. You know what I mean? And then so they were able to say, you know what, we could distribute your album. So when Looney Coleon was like looking for a new label, he ended up signing with IMG, which is Ideal Music Group. And the homies who was doing that, they were the ones that basically picked me up, me and my homie Hugh Hef, when we was like 16, 15 years old, and we was doing all that Brown Pride music. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Funky Aztecs was popping out of Vallejo, I think.
Well, I remember back then, you talking about the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So I remember back then, a lot of the homies were proud to hear a Mexican rapper.
Yeah, for real.
Now it's so much competition where it's like they're not so excited to hear somebody new. You know what I mean?
It's hard. So what I remember about the 90s is that when you did hear like Raza rapping, it was more like cholo rap. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And that's why I would say when I say Brown Pride, that it was a style. It was popping. Kid Frost had did This Is For La Raza, Proper Dose. These are guys from down south was doing the Oogum Boogum sample. You know what I mean? I think it was Looking For a Feed Behind Her or something like that.
Well, it was a race to put the culture on. Yeah. And we kind of, I know by the time,
lighter shade of brown.
I'm going to be honest with you, like in the 90s, I wasn't trying to hear none of that shit. I was already like, I wasn't into that too deep of the cholo talk. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it's just the way I was raised or the environment I was raised. Like, I wasn't hearing none of that shit. Like, no disrespect, none of those rappers. But of course, everybody was listening to shit like Kid Frost. Like, we're still kids. That shit had beat. You know what I mean? Everybody was listening to that shit.
So, being where we grew up at, like, we were slapping Too Short. Yeah. I remember I was like 12 years old when I first heard Freaky Tales. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It dates me back. But I was in the back seat of my uncle, had a 1950 bomb. And it was all, emerald green. He used to take it to the car shows, diamond tuck interior. Yeah. And he'd be like, come on, you want to go to the car show with me? I'm like, yeah. So he putting his car in the car show, and I'm in the back seat, and he's bumping these are the tales, the freaky tales. I was like, who's this? This is dope.
That
you know what I mean?
Hard,
like, this
man.
shit was hard. And but that was the era of rap in Northern Cali that we was kind of around. And Too Short blew up fast after he dropped that shit. And I was on NWA, bumping MC Hammer, Ron C out of the Bay. There's a bunch of
Ronnie O. Joe Cooley.
Ronnie O. Joe Cooley. Had the Everlasting
DJ
Bass.
Magic Mike.
Yeah. And then DJ Quick came, and Like I said, E40 and the Click, all the, but them dudes was more closer to my era. You know what I mean? I was on the tail end of when they just first started.
Yeah.
And so being that Sacramento was kind of popping, you know, the rap game and how close it was available to me, it was a unique experience for me, especially being Mexican.
It rubbed off on us quick.
Right. So when I was doing music, I first started with the blacks, you know, from South Sac, the homies from the Garden Block, right? And it was a trip because nobody knew I was Mexican, but I'm over here singing these hooks, like you know, we had touched on a Big Tone interview. I had did the All I Want to Do, the Time for the Murder Man, Shit Ain't Changed. That was all on the same album.
I seen you guys went to a show and you performed with Big Tone, right?
Yeah, I did a couple.
What song was that one?
So that was
The main one that you guys do.
She's in Love with a Gangster.
Yeah, that one. What year was that made?
So I must have recorded that back in like 2007. It was right before I got locked up. So I had to go sit down and, you know, I was networking with the homies. I had met Big Tone originally, him and the homie Kev Knox. I met them through Woody.
Yeah, like on the real, like I even thought that was a black dude. I mean, not just, you know, it's just nobody said it was a Mexican dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you didn't have your face, like nobody, well, we weren't doing too good at promoting back then either. You know what I'm saying? You don't have your face behind those hooks.
Right.
So now it's about time you start putting your face behind them.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like I said, I've been doing music a long time, and the evolution of it, you know what I mean, just kind of happened to be at the right place at the right time for the most part. But the hunger too, man. Me and my homie, when we started, he had a little DJ equipment in his garage, and we had a little 4-track mixer, and that's how it all started. Me and the homie Hugh Hef, and then he dropped out of high school and started going to college classes to learn how to do sound engineering. Yeah. So we go from that to now he's interning in a dope ass like legitimate studio, Lasting Impressions. It was like an audio and video studio, and he just started out throwing out the trash, but showing him he had a little skills. Back then, we were recording on reel-to-reel, 16 millimeter, bro. That's how far that goes back.
Yeah.
One take Jake, you know what I mean? No punching in.
Yeah.
It's like you from
I
start to
did
finish.
that in '95. My first song I recorded. Well, I recorded a verse with the homie, and that song got lost. But I think it was pretty tight, man. If we could bring that back.
Yeah, well, I mean, the sound was rich too, and it was funny because the dudes that had that studio, and that's kind of how we got in the game on the studio side of it, because we just had a dope ass professional studio, and you know, we was young kids, you know what I'm saying. But the homie was interning. They was hella cool. They liked us, so they used to let us go over there and fuck around and record. Plus, we was buying a little studio time and shit, demos, recording tapes and stuff. And we probably had about 4 or 5 songs together, and it was gaining a little traction in town, you know what I mean, on the underground. And shoot, we was supposed to be in high school. Instead we was performing at high schools. Yeah, you know what I mean. We was just
shit, you was doing it.
Running the streets.
You was moving around.
So it was weird. We had a lot of connections. I mean, when you think about it now, it was nothing, but it was something back then. The Lowrider Car Show was a huge venue. They'd come to Sac and put on a super show every year. So my homie would get me in there on the card. Mm-hmm. And so here, you know, you got Lighter Shade of Brown. You got all these dudes that are in the car show circuit at the time, right. And they put us up on stage with these dudes. That's, you know, tight. Like that's so. Okay, go ahead, open up. Are you guys ready? We get up there and do our little songs we was doing, and you know, like I said, it was on that brown pie tip at the time, but.
So you was part of so you had a big part of you know the like the upbringing, the rise of, you know, the Mexican rappers out here.
For real, yeah. So when the Lighter Shade of Brown came out, man, we would slap that tape till the tape got eaten up in the cassette player. You know what I'm saying?
for sure. I mean, hey, that's dope that you keep it real like that. A lot of homies would be like, you know, but come on, man, we were listening to that shit. You know what I mean?
I ain't gonna lie, but they wasn't gangbanging. They was on some other, you know, hey man, we had them up north too. You got Baby Bash, you know, but they just stayed in that lane where it's just they gonna do the music, they ain't gonna do the gangbanging, and they gonna just stay in that lane, and they're gonna eat.
To me, music's music. If it's dope, if it ain't offending me, then it's it's music to my ears, you know.
For reals. And you know, that's basically what it boils down to is it good quality music? You know, can people enjoy it?
Yeah.
Because what happens often is, you know, right now, like homies up north can rap. They have a lot of avenues available to them so they can get their music out. So a lot of people are doing it, and it's kind of popping. We got a lot of people out here popping, but at the end of the day, you know, there's Chicanos or Latinos. There's brown people like us in other states that don't politic. They don't know nothing about it, and they just want to listen to music that they can identify with and is speaking on the same culture.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
We got to reach out to them. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Like, I got hit up a few times with this promoter in New Mexico, but he had some headliners that was going to be with me. He was going to pay me, fly me, you know, room me and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But his headliners were some big shots down south, and I'm like, I can't. I don't know how that's going to work. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
So we're definitely being held back a lot when it comes to that shit. You know.
Well, my thing is this, bro. My advice is lead the prison politics in prison. Leave your street politics in the streets. If you're doing business, do business. And if you're trying to do both, then you already know what you got to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's the end of that. Yeah. Right now, I'm trying to do grown folks music. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We could start somewhere, but that's where you're at in life. Mm-hmm. When you're running around, you know, doing certain things, that's what you're talking about. That's what you're doing, right? So if you're moving a little different now, you know, you got kids, you want to see them become successful, get educated, do something with their lives, and not get wrapped up in the same cycle of in and out of prison. You know what I'm saying? Then of course you want to give them that if you can. If you have it within your means and your power, give them an opportunity to level up, and don't be mad at them for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like I said, man, there's a lot of people throughout this country, world that can look at us and say, man, he kind of looks like me, and I identify with his, what he's talking about, his culture, you know, because I can relate to it. And when you were younger, like, name some of your top movies when you was a kid. Labamba.
Yeah.
Why? Why was Labamba one of your favorite movies? Labamba was your favorite movie because it was about a young Chicano artist who was shining right there on pop radio with the rest of the world, and you were like, dang, he basically kind of grew up like that. You know, family was in the field working and all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah. So you see that and you identify with it. Yeah. Selena, another movie, right? Every little girl, every little Chicana in California, Texas, or wherever there's Mexican hint, they can identify with her because they grew up similar, you know, with the culture, with the same way. The abuelita, the dad, the mom, you know what I mean? Or the brothers, the cousins.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. A lot of us, our people are watching each other.
Right, and we're looking for somebody we're looking for a hero to identify with when we're kids. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And when that hero, whether it's like a hometown hero, right? Because you know you're from a big city, so somebody who's shining in your city, you'll be like, yeah, he's ours. You know, he came from Sac.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. In the 90s, that's how it felt when you heard a Mexican rapper. It was like, yeah, fuck yeah. You know what I mean?
He's one of us.
Yeah, straight up.
He's a Chicano, right? But, you know, times change, things evolve. But, you know, like I said, man, if I keep it all the way 100, I'm going to keep it about the music and move forward.
So you think our people were more proud of Mexican rappers in the 90s than they are now?
No, I think it's the same mentality. It's just a new generation. You understand what I'm saying? So whatever our generation was back then, no social media, you know what I'm saying? Still spinning records, still playing cassette tapes, no CDs. You know, CDs barely came out in the mid 90s. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's like this. Like back in the 90s, we barely got dessert, which means like a Mexican rapper. Now, these days, we have fucking freezers full of dessert with all kinds of Mexican rappers. So it's like, whatever, you know. Everybody's being picky now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You could definitely get lost in the amount of Mexican rappers that are out there now.
Yeah.
But you know, if somebody there's a lot of talent out there though. There's a lot of individuals that are standing out for the right reasons, whether they got a good flow or they tell a good story or they just got a presence about them. Then that's their shine.
That's right.
But anybody. But you're right. And when I came home from prison, bro, I really didn't want to mess with music anymore because I was like, well, bro, I come home and these youngsters was wearing little skinny jeans and waddling down the street because their pants was halfway on their ass. And I was like, what? That's gangster? I was like, what the hell? You know what I mean? I could not identify with it or relate to it. Man. And then there was the way it was all rapping. I was like, man, maybe this not for me no more. You know what I mean? And
it's definitely a hard thing to get used to for me too, man. But there's still some gangsters behind those skinny jeans.
No, ain't nobody like, chalking them up like they not. But it's just a different time.
No, I know. It's just it's just different for us. You know what I mean? Cause you're about the same age as me. You're what, like 2 years older than me? Well, you're 47, right?
47, yeah.
Yeah, I'm 45. So, I'll be 46 in a month. But yeah, it was a little different because it's like, damn, man, like how we supposed to? Because we're stuck in our ways. We're not going to change. You know what I mean? We're going to be like we're going to wear our jeans, and I like wearing just plain clothes. I don't like doing too much. You know what I mean?
I feel the same way. I feel like I'm a little too old to be wearing cartoon characters on my hoodies and my t-shirts. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
I'm gonna be honest with you. Me, if I see you like that, I was like, it's kind of it don't look right on you. You know, we're just. You know what I mean?
But that and that's cool, man. You know, because everybody got to come for their generation, and that's what the times.
Yeah,
is.
you got to respect it.
You know,
yeah.
like our parents was probably telling us like, because I remember a distinct era of time in Sacramento where everybody was wearing khakis and white T-shirts and Chuck Taylors.
Remember that?
And then all of a sudden, Levi's came out, and it was like and the people in my neighborhood was wearing corduroy pants, snakeskin belts, Cortezes.
Z Cavaricci. I see homies in my neighborhood wearing Cortez with Z Cavaricci back in the day.
So the Buffalinos and the Z Cavariccis and that all came like, it was like literally like the end of the 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden everybody was trying to be fly suave with the pompadours and the hairsprays and all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was in that.
So it was a transition from Cholo to, just almost like, you went from Cholo to just like hood. And I feel like the culture is a huge part of it because whatever was going on around in the music we was listening to it for a reason. Is because we identified. We could like when Eazy-E and NWA came out, even though it was the perspective of a black man's culture in California. Yeah. It was still similar because we were in the same neighborhoods as the blacks in Sacramento. So it was the same shit we was going through.
Yeah, same here in San Jose on the south side. There was a lot of blacks in the south, so we all rubbed off each other a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To this day, I'm still close with a lot of guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like a lot of black dudes.
For real.
And I relate to them a lot, like real like brothers and shit. You know what I mean? And we have a lot in common, man. And it's like one of those things, and where we have to really just stop and just like realize and stop trying to, we're this, we're that, and nah, we're all the same shit, man. We all grew up the fucking same,
For reals. And, you might have been from a different place, but, what it boils down to is like, it's almost like social class, right? It's social class that separates you from the next class up, right? Yeah. So the people who is, they grew up a certain way, like every freaking movie, every little teenage rom-com movie was about some kid from a nice-ass house in a nice-ass neighborhood, went to a nice-ass school. That wasn't my life. I didn't grow up like, that wasn't familiar to me. It was just on TV in Hollywood. Yeah. But the music, that the gangster rap music came in, and I was like, well, that's more like what we were seeing. Yeah. People strung out on crack, in the neighborhood, the grocery store getting robbed, and crime scene tape at the park when you riding your bike as a little kid. And so this is what you're like, okay, so now I can identify with this a little bit more because this is what reality is for me. And the Hollywood fantasy, I'm not saying that people wasn't living that childhood and that life, but they was just in a whole, they was in a higher social class economically. They were from well-to-do families. You know what I mean?
Did you ever? I already know you went to the pen. Did you ever do any time as a kid?
You know what? I never. I was lucky enough to not get caught up. I did a couple little turnarounds in juvenile hall, where I got there, got picked up. You know what I mean? Kicked out. So I never caught no time as a juvenile. I never did no YA time, but when you're young, you're reckless. You don't think that you're ever gonna get caught doing what you're gonna do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. There's the reason why I'm asking you, because if I'm right, you got busted around, you were like your late 20s.
I was 30 years old when I got busted. Yeah, 29 when I.
And when did you turn yourself in? Because you
So
bailed out too, right?
Yeah, so I did I ended up catching my case, and then I went to county, and then I bailed out, and then I was working, fighting my case, lawyered up, all that, but I was still grinding, doing my music, and just try to just put on a good face for the family and just push. But it was inevitable; it was coming.
No, I know that feeling.
I was just trying to prolong it, and then there was this certain I understand how John Gotti felt when you go to court, they keep letting you out, and you be like, "Damn, I'm untouchable," right? You start getting a little, it's almost like I guess I'm not going to jail, you know what I mean, or not yet at least.
I'm glad you brought that up too. Is before I forget, the reason why I asked you if you've been in juvenile hall, because do you think not spending a lot of time in the juvenile system as a kid kept you like a little bit numb to consequences as you got older?
No, I just think that for the most part I got lucky. So I come from a working class family, but a stable household. My mom and dad, they might have fought and we might have been dysfunctional, but they kept it together. Right. For the sake. My dad was hella old fashioned. He was like, do what I say because I said, and I don't have to tell you why. You know what I mean? And it was always some kind of chore or something to keep us busy. When I was young, I didn't understand it. But now I understood, because we grew up in the hood, he was just trying to keep us away from the homies that their parents wasn't together, and the mom was off doing whatever, and the dad was off doing whatever.
Definitely,
because those was the kids. Yeah, those was the kids that was getting into trouble going to juvenile hall, right. And they was gang banging a lot younger, right? So, what ended up happening? So my dad, old school, he used to get this newspaper every morning and read it, and he'd always read. In Sacramento Bee, they had a section called the Metro, or the region, and basically it would tell you all the crime update, like what happened, who got killed, who got shot, where at, and we was always involved in sports growing up, so he was always somehow, involved in me and my two brothers doing baseball or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And all these kids we grew up with in the neighborhood, like he would always, when he'd see something on the newspaper, he'd sit us down. It'd be like a Sunday, Saturday, whatever, before we had to go out and mow the grass, and be like, "Come over here, sit down at the table." I'm like, what? And then he'd give us the newspaper and make us read it. And it'd be somebody we played baseball with, we grew up with, went to school with, that we know each other's families, you know what I mean? And it just got stabbed in front of somebody's house in Southside, just got shot, just got locked up because they shot somebody, got robbed. So this was how he tried to bring the relevance of what was going on around us to our attention. But, we was already around it. And even though he was trying to keep us from it, we was already there.
Yeah.
So it was just.
I heard a little
like
bit
that.
of your story. It seemed like you guys were at home minding your own business, though. You know what I mean? And it still came. I'm not trying to get in detail of the story, but I'm talking about like spiritually. Like you feel like an evil spirit still found you, no matter how good your dad laced you up, how long you stayed out of the system. I mean, if you made it all the way to 30 and not really did a lot of time, I mean, that's pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. But the reason why I'm saying, because I got kids, my oldest is 24, and I'm starting to question, like, I kept them out of the system, out of the juvenile system. But as adults, I can't do shit about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't.
You could only keep schooling them, but there's nothing you can't spank them no more. You can't hold them. You can't punish them. You kind of got.
You can't do the time for them.
But I'm asking because I kind of regret not letting them go through it as a kid and do the juvenile hall shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know by the time I was 18, I was already, I don't want to see no more locked doors. Mm-hmm. My first time in the system, I was 10.
Right.
I was in like in 88.
He was over. He was.
And I stayed in the system all the way until 18. And that's when I met my kid's mother. I'm still with her, almost 30 years.
Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah, appreciate it. But I'm just saying, like, I just maybe if the city will offer that kind of juvenile system without a kid having to catch a case. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they could get structured a little bit. 'Cause some of these kids, they don't even know. Like, I think the worst part about being locked up, and you could elaborate more, is the routine. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're trying to focus, right, and you barely get to sleep, and then boom, you got to get up, and you got to go get your meal. Then you come back, and then you try to focus again and get back to sleep, and then it's count time.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of really, does that rub off you a little bit? Like, does it fuck you up a little bit?
So, the structure of prison, it's well, obviously it's not normal, right? Because you lose a lot of freedoms of making your own. Well,
decisions. You were a man already. Right? You already had kids,
really?
So to being told
so as a child,
that's kind of hard,
yeah.
right?
So I was always, I'll keep it all the way 100. I was a fuck up. As a kid, if you tell me don't do something, I did it anyway. And it was just a matter of time before it was going to catch up to me. But as a man, so when I went to prison, I already had, bought a house, I had my own studio, I was making music, I was raising my kids, and I was doing it in a way that I gave my kids what I didn't have. And in some ways I didn't give them what I was given. So where my dad was a good father and he was giving me the guidance, even though he wasn't breaking it down for me, he was looking out for me in certain ways. I didn't really have to worry about that because what I did was I just took my kids out of the environment. So me growing up as a kid, helicopters in my back window, people hopping our fences, running from the cops, like that's the neighborhood, you know what I mean? So you just get numb to it. Somebody got shot, oh man, that's messed up, but that's how it goes, right? So my kids didn't have to deal with that because I removed them from the environment and I try to give them a better chance at life. So for them, I didn't have to have the conversations of, hey, you guys got to stay away from this or do that. Because to be honest with you, by the time they were at that age where it was supposed to come, I was already in prison. And
so you was in prison at 30?
At 32, yeah. I finally ended up going down at 32 because I was fighting my case for 2 years.
So do you think being established on the streets, having a home, and a wife and kids, you think that made it harder to do time? Then if you didn't have none of that?
I'll tell you this. I'll say this right now. When you're young and you ain't got nothing to lose, you'll throw it all away for nothing, right? A glance, what you looking at? You know what I mean? I'll take your life or I'll give mine's up because of that glance. But when you start having things, you got a kid, how you think about that kid now a little bit, especially after having that kid for years, not just a little baby at home with a baby mama you don't talk to no more.
Yeah, he was already 12,
I'm talking
right?
about, you got a child, you have a life, certain things you do think about. But there's certain things that you're programmed to do, and it's just a reaction, and it's a survival reaction.
So tell us, if you could remember that feeling, and only you remember that feeling, that day you had to turn yourself in and just when reality kicked in that you're no longer going to be there to rescue your son, your 12-year-old son, if something happens on the streets, because you were a knucklehead on the streets, right? And the possibilities, right?
Yep.
So I know that ran through your head a million times, like, what if my son gets jumped? Or what if, what is his mom going to do? Did you run the possibilities and all the scenarios through your head when you were sitting down?
Honestly, when it was time, so when I turned myself in, not to get too much into specifics, but when I was out on bail, I got caught again for having a strap. But shit was kind of funky, and so I'm a firm believer of I'd rather get caught with it than without it.
Right.
And so I ended up getting another gun case, and my lawyer ends up saving me from having to go back, back to jail so I'm out on double bail now.
Yeah.
And eventually it was just I had to come to the realization that I'm gonna do time. I need to turn myself in. And the day came, and it was right before my birthday. Me and my daughter, we share the same birthday. So when he came to me and he said, "Well, you know, they're taking you into custody. You ain't going back. You ain't going back home. So don't bring nothing. You know, leave your keys with your girl, your kids. You know."
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, that's it. Your run's over. You're going to do time now. Salud.
Thank you.
So
You didn't think of.
so when I was getting locked up, I was thinking about because my daughter's she's 3 years older than my son. I was thinking about her. I was thinking about me not being there for her birthday, how I was gonna crush her. But I was also thinking about her and my son not having a dad, and they're used to having me their whole entire life. I never spent one day away from my kids. You know what I mean? Growing up, I gave them a full-time father figure involving sports in their lives. You know what I mean?
So keep it real. Was it emotional?
It was hard, man. It was a.
Did you have to suck it? Did you have to suck in tears at sometimes and shit?
I didn't, bro. But at the time, I was just running on borrowed time. I knew it was coming. I had already came to grips with it.
No, when you were sitting down, when you were already.
When I finally sat down, I would have my moments where I would get sad, bro. Especially like when I'm writing a letter, I see a picture, and it goes so long you don't see a picture, and then you see your kids, and you be like, damn, I'm missing out on a lot.
Depressing, huh?
But you be more sad for your kids than yourself.
Exactly.
You
That's
know,
what I want to hear.
You're sad for them because, like, shit, I had a dad, bro. I had a mom, so for them to not have a dad, they got a mom, but they don't got a dad. And their life is in disorder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it, and little things that they probably felt that void, where they're having to just put on a strong face and be brave. You know, we haven't really had to have those or had opportunities to have those conversations, but it was a big adjustment coming home. I went to prison and my son was 12 years old. Maybe 11 years old. When I get out, he's 18. So it was like, I missed, you know what I mean? 8 years of his life, or 19, right? So he's already a young man, and he's already been doing what he's been doing. So he had just graduated high school. When I came home, it was like I wanted to establish that relationship with him, but he was already running and gunning, doing his
like
thing.
you had to chase him and stuff, huh?
But, I
well,
couldn't
remember
chase
this.
it.
Remember this. Like I'd say this a lot to people that have kids. Like we're gonna like we're gonna bump heads with our children, but I believe in this. Like the kids ain't supposed to chase their parents. The parents supposed to chase the kids. You know what I mean? Because I see parents act. They have fallouts with their children as adults, and they act stubborn, and that's the reason why they don't talk for years. You know what I'm saying?
The OG, that's the OG way, man. You're stubborn.
Yeah. So how long did it take? Did you ever get over it? Did you ever, or did you ever get comfortable in there, not worrying about them?
Nah, man. I always.
So you was hard timing it the whole time.
Keep it 100, bro. I would always write my kids, and they wasn't always writing back all the time, but man, my dad, rest in peace, bro. He would. He had this thing with his grandkids where. He was trying to right all the wrong things that he thought he did as a parent. So what he did was he set up bank accounts with all his grandkids, and he said once a month, he said, all I'm asking is $20 a kid. Give me $20, and I'm gonna take those kids and I'm gonna open a bank account. I'm gonna deposit. That'd be bank day with Grandpa. So he started doing that, and it just kind of became their thing. And so he was doing that once a month thing when I was out, and I guess it continued. So my dad was always in their life. So what I appreciate about him was when,
So you had like a little insurance
when
thing
he
going.
had those kids with him, he would say, "Have you talked to your dad? Have you wrote your dad? No, why not? Okay, here's a piece of paper. Here's a pen. Write your dad.
Okay.
A couple paragraphs don't hurt.
Damn, shout out to your pops, man. Sounds like a solid individual.
Yeah, he was, man. So. He was all about family, man, and I, in a lot of ways, I'm a lot like my dad, but then there was some ways that I wasn't, where, you kind of feel like that you can't fill those shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it'll be big shoes to fill as
Well,
a
your
man.
time will come.
But hey, we still got a lot of time left, or the time we do have left, we have it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So whatever we make it. But yeah, man.
Man, I think he installed a lot of good things in you, man, and a lot of good characters and shit. You can see it,
no doubt.
And Pops was doing something, just to hear a little bit about what you said about him and shit. It sounds like he was really serious about getting you guys to follow his footsteps,
He tried, man. Back when we played ball, man. We're talking about all the little knuckleheads in the neighborhood, and most of us was all Mexican. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember it was a trip, man, because like all the homies that I grew up with, playing ball or whatever, like they was all involved in the street life. We was all there doing the same shit. Even though we still had that structure, we were just looking for trouble, just looking for, you know what I mean, and that's just how easy it could be to just go down the wrong path. Just start doing stuff that'll not be so good for you. You know what I mean?
We're the same age, but it kind of remind me of my kids because I'm that dad that didn't have shit but gave it all to my kids. I put them in all the sports, and those fuckers were good at everything. I mean, home runs, touchdowns. We went all the way to Florida for all three of them went to Florida championships. You know what I mean?
Nice, yeah.
So I got trophies, medals up the ass, but they're still gonna, even though they didn't grow up in exact hoods I grew up at, but the hood was in the house. Like I still had my homies there.
Sliding through.
I still had the aggressive attitude, disciplined attitude that was passed down from my mother and my grandmother.
Yeah.
The juvenile system, the counselors and shit, the abuse. I raised my oldest kid like old school. You know what I mean? Yeah. I whooped his ass. You know what I mean? But the two younger ones, I backed off like, oh, fuck that. Like, it ain't working. Like, this ain't working. You know what I mean?
That's funny you say that, man, because my little sister was born hella late after me and my brothers, and my dad never touched her, never hit her. And I asked him, I said, hey, OG, how come you don't never whoop her? How come you never whooped her? But you used to whoop us. And he was like, wow. He was like, be honest with you, son. He was like, I whooped all three of your asses, and it still didn't stop you from going out there fucking around. So he was like, it wasn't working. So
that's touching right there.
That's the truth, man. But
touching. He learned.
Yeah. Shout out to Pops. He was still growing, and I like to think that we all had that ability to still grow, man. If you ain't evolving, man, if you ain't growing, bro, all you're doing is getting older. And how many times you probably bump into people from your past, and they're still in the same place.
Bro, in 2009, I went to county, and I couldn't believe some people I seen that I ain't seen since juvenile hall, and I was just the most depressing feeling, like, what the fuck am I doing here? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I can't believe I'm in this shit again, Yeah. It's fucked up, man. But, man,
you can't stop. I mean, honestly, bro, like, you could do your best, but when shit happens, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. But, like, I kind of heard a little bit of your story on the homie's page, and I was like, damn. They didn't even go outside looking for that shit. And that could happen to any of us.
Yeah, so the thing is, though, is that, so I moved out to Galt. I told you I bought a house out in Galt. It's like south of Sacramento. Yeah. And that's where I decided to raise my family. You know what I mean? So when I was young, I was in my 20s. I bought a house out there. So I was trying to just give them, I was always a hard worker no matter what. Just wanted to provide for my family and do what I had to do on the side. Yeah. So by day, I'm over there baseball coaching, working in my job, and then by night, I'm out there in Sacramento running the streets. So that's just, old habits die hard type shit, right? Yeah. But eventually, somebody from Sac came out to Galt at my cousin's house. She ended up buying a house out there, and so it just found me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like that sometimes, bro. It's like, you know what I mean? You think you could walk away from stuff, and it'll find you.
I duck a lot of this shit. You know what I mean? But like you said, it's just I don't know, man. Like, if you didn't pray, I think it's like if you didn't pray before you go to bed, or you didn't pray for what, I'm saying, like when you wake up, and you're asking for some shit, man.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna tell you this: there's a lot of people out there rapping about killing and this and that. And hey, man, this is called the law of attraction, bro. And you keep speaking on it. If you ain't doing it and you speaking on it, you gonna bring it your way.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Right.
coming for you.
Yeah.
One way or another. You can't, you know.
If you're looking for it,
You
gonna
can't
find
project certain energy into the universe and expect it not to find you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's one thing to tell a story about, you know, if you telling your lifestyle and you know, you doing this, you doing that, man, that's cool, man. You know, or you did this, you do that. That's what I do in my music. I tell my story. I don't
If you lived it,
I don't lie it.
then you can
I
talk
don't,
about it,
you
right?
know, create little
Yeah.
false narratives and none of that. You know what I mean? I'm just telling my story. I'm not trying to promote violence. I'm not trying to promote gang activity. I'm just telling you from my perspective, growing up where I grew up. This is what I went through. This is what I did. It's basically it's the modern version of the blues, man. We just singing the
Right.
blues. We
Just
telling
doing
our
you.
story, right?
That's exactly how I look at it. I don't even look at myself as a rapper because I can't compete with these rappers. Like how they do these little ciphers. Like I'll make a fool of myself to do that shit. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a rapper. I like to put some poems together and shit, make it sound good
You're
on
right.
beat.
You
know
want
what
to
I mean?
write? Yeah. I mean, bro, these dudes ain't really doing no. I'll tell you what. Show me the dude that's freestyling on his cipher, or show me the dude who wrote it. You know what I mean? And
Right,
I'll tell you the difference, because all that somebody who's real, like bussing, freestyling, it's just a whole different flow.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean?
different.
Because if you have an opportunity to sit there and write it, right, you're just creating a work of art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's different. And, you know, certain cats have wordplay. Hey, man, it's all good, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep grinding. For me, as my life is changing, my story's changing, but I'm also remembering, bro, that those little Chicano kids or Latino kids across the world that are just looking for somebody to identify.
Yeah.
You know, they don't need to be caught up in the politics or the street crap. So, you know what I mean? They just looking for somebody to be like, oh, he's brown like me, and he sounds like he's, you know, kind of grew up the same way I did.
Yeah.
They just
So
look.
make sure you're not I get it. That's why with my music, I make sure I'm not definitely because my kids are watching. I always think I'm talking to my kids, you know what I mean. So when things I post, things I say, is because you know I want them to you know I want to lead by example.
Right.
You know what I mean. So I'm gonna make sure I'm not gonna lead them in the fucking gutter. You know.
Right.
But on this channel right here, this page, I started this, man, to show our people, to bring our people to light, and to show like a lot of us been drugged through the mud, but there's a positive you know, you have you know what I'm saying, like a positive outcome. You're actually back, you made it back, and but you're doing construction right now, right?
Yeah, I'm an electrician.
Okay.
So
All right.
shout out to the 340. You know what I mean?
Right. So you're back on your feet, you're doing legit shit. So you know, life didn't stop where you thought it was gonna stop, right? Or some may think it's gonna stop, right?
No.
You know.
Man, even as a child, like, so I've always had the mentality of I could do whatever. I could, if I want to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not because somebody was telling me, oh, you get a gold star, you can do anything you want, you can be the president, little Billy. Nah, it wasn't that. It was just a mentality of, like I said, me and my homie, he had a little DJ equipment in his garage. We were like, let's do some music. Like let's make some music, and we was making music, doing demo tapes. So that's just kind of how it is. It's like I just don't see things. They may be an obstacle, but they're not gonna stop me from what I already have in my mind. Right. And my mind is just I gotta succeed. I'm trying to give myself a better life for my kids, my family, and because anything we do in life, what are we doing it for? What motivates you to do anything in life?
What motivates me to do is my family.
Family, right?
My family.
But not everybody got kids. Not everybody got family. So what are they pushing for? Their legacy.
And not everybody loves their kids.
You know what I mean? For their hood, for their homies. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. Because sometimes the homies are your family. You know what I mean? That's just how it goes. You know what I mean? The only family you got sometimes.
Yeah,
So,
that's why when I mentioned in my music, where I grew up at, I mentioned it as past tense, as my credentials to show what I'm saying to you now is speaking with experience.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nothing more, nothing less. You
yes,
know what I mean?
sir.
But man, so yeah, man, this podcast, man, is I think this is a positive one. Another one, you was drugged through the mud. To sum it up, you're back on the streets.
Yeah, don't give
you're
up.
Working
man.
hard, you're making that money. Are you gonna buy another house?
Definitely, man.
Okay.
I bought a house. So 2 years out, I bought a house.
Oh, so you
know what
own a
I'm saying?
house right now?
Hell yeah.
Okay, that's
so,
right. All
So
right.
man, it's hard because when I left, I had I was doing my thing. So I had bought a house in my 20s. I was, had my studio. I was putting out music, and I was living pretty good. Then when I came home with the shirt on my back. So it's like, okay, back to square one. I felt like I was back at home with my parents without a job. Like, damn, I'm a kid again. But not for long, you know what I mean? So I got back on my feet.
So
got
real
back on the
quick,
grind.
if you could sum it up, because we got to get out of here. How'd your case go from because I heard what happened on the homie's channel, but how'd you get a manslaughter? Like,
So with the lawyer that I got, he was able to without getting into the whole details of the case, he was able to get them to drop it down, just playing hardball. Like, we could take this to trial. He could always do the self-defense, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at the same time, when we're talking behind walls, he's like, look, you're going to prison. You shouldn't have had a gun. They're going to hit you. They're going to hit you with this. They're going to hit you with that. They're going to hit you with a felon with a weapon. You ain't supposed to have no guns. You're already a felon, right? So my thing was this. Because I had a life out here, because I had family, because I was like, well, how can you guarantee me to come home in the shortest amount of time? So when he said, well, look, he was like, well, how long are you looking at doing? And I was like, how about 5 years? And he was like, you're crazy. He was like, no way. He was like,
damn,
bro,
your
so,
heart had to be twisting that though.
So I was like, come on, man. I was like, you can't do 5. And he was like, maybe 15. He was like, maybe 10. I was like, man, I'm not taking it. Well, let's take it to trial. And he's like, yeah, but then would you get this other gun charge? He was like, bro, they're gonna make you look like a monster. They're gonna bring up every bad thing you did, and they're gonna take you to court, and they're gonna hose you. He was like, because they're gonna show the jury why you belong in prison.
So how did he work that?
So he worked it to where they were just. It was a trip. I guess the DA at the time, she was pushing hard. She wanted. When they first offered me, they said 20 with an L. 20 with an L. What? I was like, get that shit out of here, right? And like I said, I was going to court for 2 years. So by luck or whatever, so first of all, they felt like they had some kind of evidence against me. Somebody who did a statement or something at the party. Apparently, the video didn't have no audio.
Oh, okay.
When they did the recording,
So
there was they lost their evidence that they was going to use. Okay, and then there was some other because they had a bunch of written statements and stuff, but they didn't really have no hard evidence because when the shit jumped off, at the end of the day it was just me, dude, and my brother.
Okay.
And that was it. Nobody else in the house. So when everybody, people could say what they think happened from outside of a home when the shit's jumping on, but ain't nobody really saying what happened inside the house because nobody was in there, right? So at the end of the day, he was just playing hardball, saying, "Man, he could take this to the box, and we might end up winning." And so the lady ended up. She was the DA at the time. She was like trying to get married or something. Something was going on in her life to where she was just like, "All right, fuck it, I'm tired of this case. Let's make a deal." Okay. And then so he came to me and he was like, I got this one. He was like, we're looking at this, doing 8 years. He was like, run both your cases concurrent. Because you could run them consecutive where I'd have to do one for one case, one for the other. He said she's willing to do it concurrent.
You got blessed with that concurrent. A lot of people.
So I got lucky. But, I mean, I give it up to Pat McCarthy, my lawyer, man. The dude he was a slick talking Willie, and he had the juice, so he was able to get me, because we do our dirt, we do our time. You know what I mean? You gonna put
so he
it
got
in.
you 8 years.
So he got me 8 years, and then the hardest part was coming home in that 8 years, right? It's like you do my time and get home on time.
So you did 8 years straight, or you did less?
So it was a little under 8. It was actually 7 years and like 7 years and 8 or 9
Was
months,
that
something like
was
that.
that 80% or something?
But I did. I was supposed to do 85 of that. But I ended up. I got a hell of a deal, man.
Damn, that
Because
sounds like a hell of a
I was
deal.
in prison talking to people who almost killed somebody, and they
Yeah.
was doing fucking 20 years.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting. But at the same time too, it's like no matter all the bad shit I did when I was younger, or got in trouble with, what I was doing in life at the time, work full-time employed, homeowner, kids, and all that. You know what I mean? Coaching, baseball, whatnot. So that did benefit me. So I wasn't just out there running the streets anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, that's the.
Did they ever mention Heat of Passion?
No, they didn't ever bring up Heat of Passion. So just the details of the case, it's hard to justify a certain thing. Heat of the passion to be in the moment and then let it go. But just didn't stop there. You know what I mean?
So, okay. So there's more Okay.
So
I
they're
get it.
It wasn't just
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, you could have did that if the circumstances was different.
if it was different.
All right.
It wasn't.
Well, man, we're gonna wrap this up, man. I think that's a positive outlook.
Man, I appreciate you having me.
Any
homie.
shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, man. Shout out to all the people doing something positive with their life right now. All my folks. You know what I'm saying? Bro, there's a lot of history in this rap business, especially for Chicano rappers, and there's a huge future in it for us. So stay positive, man. Get that money.
And if you guys are looking for some hooks, hit up Mad Dog on Instagram. What is it?
Yeah.
Mad Dog 916.
Mad Dog 916.
Yeah, he
Instagram.
sings some dope hooks, man. Goes way back.
Yep.
That's it. We out.
Deuces.